Death Note is available now on Blu-ray from Viz Media, and I'm currently obsessed with this series all over again. Find out why coming up on the Batcave. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Batcave. I'm your host, Lady Hellbat, and I have Death Note fever. I have for the last month and a half, ever since Viz Media put out a Blu-ray edition with all 37 episodes of the series. Now, if you're not familiar with this series, Death Note is an anime based on a manga that ran in Japan from 2006 to 2007. It came to North America shortly thereafter, where it aired on Adult Swim until its contract ran out. So the series revolves around a genius high school student named Light Yagami who finds a death note, a notebook lying on the ground. And when he picks it up, it's full of rules inside that dictate how the death note should be used to kill people. The rules are conveniently written in English, and they stipulate that if you enter someone's name in the death note, they will die of a heart attack unless another cause of death is specified. Now, Light is the son of the police chief, so he has very definite ideas about justice and right and wrong, and so he starts using the death note to execute criminals that he sees are convicted on TV and on the internet. He develops a serious god complex in the end, and he believes that he can use the death note to create a new world, a new society where only good-hearted people live. He's joined by a Shinigami named Ryuk, and a Shinigami is a god of death, and Ryuk happened to be the one who dropped his death note into the human realm, and he did it on purpose because he was bored and he wanted to see what would happen. And take a look at Ryuk. He's pretty metal. He's pretty badass. He's scary as fuck, and he just loves apples. And I know it sounds bizarre, and anime characters do tend to sound bizarre, but if you get into the show, you're gonna love Ryuk. So as Light begins using the death note, society becomes aware that there is an unseen force that's killing criminals, and they start referring to this force as Kira, which is actually an anglicization of the word killer. Now, to that end, the police are dead set on finding and capturing Kira, and they enlist the help of another genius, a really eccentric one by the name of L. Now, L is a bit of an oddball, admittedly, but he's very pragmatic, he's very calculating, and he quickly becomes the head of the task force that's responsible for catching Kira. Light, on the other hand, as the police chief's son, is aware that the police are trying to catch Kira, and he figures that the best way to keep him out of suspicion is to join the task force himself. So all this starts a really crazy cat and mouse game where Light and L are in very close quarters and they suspect each other. In fact, they pretty much know who each other are, but they can't do anything until they can prove anything. So they're really trying to stay one step ahead of each other. Now, they both firmly believe that they're on the side of justice. And to make matters more interesting, the Death Note actually has a lot more rules to follow, and the series really exploits every one of those rules to its fullest potential. Now, most people who have seen Death Note will tell you that the series kind of slumps in the second half, that there's a story arc, and after this arc is completed, the story just kind of waxes and wanes and drags on. And that is true. It's kind of beyond argument. In fact, it's so agreed upon that this is the case that rumors have circulated that the creators only intended it to have that first story arc, but the series was doing so well at that point that they just kept it going. So even though the series kind of slumps after the halfway mark, by that point you're so engaged with the story and the characters that you just have to see it through. So don't let that be a deterrent. What's more, and what's actually really bizarre about this series, is the theme song shifts after that first arc is completed. The first half of this series has a theme song that's like a catchy Japanese pop song, like this. And then, after the halfway mark, it switches to this. The standard Blu-ray edition that I got my hands on has all these special features, all these interviews with the Japanese creators and the American team who worked on the dubbing, and nobody mentioned it, and I scoured the internet and I can't really find a reason why. It's just because. Personally, I prefer the music in the second half. It's a really aggressive kind of metal song, and I kind of consider this series to have an aggressive metal vibe to it insofar as it's a very cerebral and suspenseful kind of drama that plays out. So with regard to the Blu-ray, Viz Media put out a standard edition, which is what I have here, that has all 37 episodes of the anime series, as well as the special features and all the bells and whistles I told you about. But they also put out an Omega edition that has the 37 episodes, the special features, and also 2 full-length anime features, one of which is called Death Note Relight, Visions of a God, and the other is Death Note Relight, L's Successors. So if you're like me and you really get into Death Note and you want to learn more and more about this story and this mythology and this world that's constructed, there is a lot out there for you to get your hands on. There are also 2 live-action films on the series starring Tatsuya Fujiwara as Light, who horror fans might recognize as Shuya from Battle Royale. These movies aren't in the Blu-ray pack, but they are really fun. I especially like the CGI that they used for the Shinigami. I can't believe that I'm saying that I love the CGI, but I love Ryuk. I love the way he looks in the anime series, and I'm glad he still looks like that in the live-action series. Plus, L is a bit of a weirdo. He's designed to be eccentric. He's got some really odd characteristics and behaviors. He has a huge sweet tooth. He loves to eat candy. And my favorite is he's got a way of holding his cell phone like this. And they replicated that in the film, and it just tickles me. I don't know why. There's a 3rd live action film currently in development in Japan, and there's been rumblings in Hollywood as well that a live action feature is going to be directed by Adam Wingard, who directed The Guest and You're Next and VHS. So I'm cautiously optimistic about that. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Death Note on the Batcave is because a lot of anime fans know about it, and a lot of kids know about it, oddly enough. I don't really see how this series has a great appeal for children because there's not a lot of action, there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of think, and there's a lot of cerebral chess going on, so it kind of boggles me that kids like it. But kids like it a lot, especially American kids, and there have been crazy stories about kids getting a notebook and calling it their death note and writing their classmates' names down in it and getting suspended from school. Albuquerque had a famous trial where the student committee tried to ban it. And it's ridiculous how people overreact, and horror fans are used to that, I'm sure. But suffice it to say that Death Note is a cultural phenomena that horror fans haven't largely tapped into, I find. But I think horror fans will love it. It's not a gory series, but there's murder aplenty, and it's a really psychological look at what happens when life and death are placed into the hands of a human. It's a cautionary tale. So that's it from me for the Batcave today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've seen Death Note, please comment below. If you haven't seen it, I believe the whole series is on Netflix right now, so definitely check it out. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe, tell all your friends about it, or else I'll write your name in my book. See you next time.